And when you say that it exists as it is today, it makes it feel like whoever's rich, well, they deserved it. They have the merit, right? And whoever isn't, didn't have the merit and doesn't deserve it. Well, that doesn't make sense. I've been poor, I've been middle class.
It does exist today. And you disagree, so I'm leaving.
Hey fam, welcome and welcome back to One and Done. Today we've got another great video. Dr. Phil is visiting TYT, Anna, Kasparian and Cenk Uygur. The subject matter today is meritocracy. Should we be lifting people up on their merits? Or should we be helping people on the basis of the color of their skin, ethnicity, or minority groups? The panel touches on this and more. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like, smash the subscribe, ring the notification bell, and let's roll that tape.
So there's so much. And in fact, as I read your principles in the book, I'm not sure I disagreed with a single one, right? Personal responsibility, merit, etc. But here's the part where it gets complicated. So you talk about merit. I talked about this in my book, Justice Coming. So I love the idea of a meritocracy, but we don't really have a meritocracy. So then that creates a complicated situation. So there's this great video that I saw that I talked about in the book where they say, okay, now we're gonna run a 100-yard dash and whoever wins is gonna get some amount of money, $100 or something. And everybody's excited and there's a whole bunch of folks. And they say, now anybody who had two parents, take 2 steps forward. Anybody who went to private school, take 2 more steps forward. And on until some of the guys were out, on the 80-yard line. Like they're about to score, they're about to win the minute the race starts. And I think that what bothers some folks is that when we pretend that the meritocracy is not an ideal, but that it already exists. And when you say that it exists as it is today, it makes it feel like whoever's rich, well, they deserved it. They have the merit, right? And whoever isn't, didn't have the merit and doesn't deserve it. Well, that doesn't make sense. I've been poor, I've been middle class, and from time to time I had money, right? Well, I was the same person, right? Whether I was any of those things. So do you see how the idea of a meritocracy, while beautiful and lovely, when people pretend that it exists today, can have real problems because then you don't fix the problems that created that disparity?
Well, I think first things off the bat is not everyone can start from the same place. We can't pick and choose our parents. We're born into a situation and hopefully we make the most out of that situation. Now, if some people are born with a silver spoon in their mouth, maybe they don't have that drive. Maybe they don't have that sense of purpose. So there's advantages and disadvantages. Societies have already tried to even things out. Like for instance, in the West, free education in the public schools. Now, just because it's free doesn't necessarily mean it's better or it's good. It's still up to the individual whether they want to excel. Now, he named a couple of things there that give you more advantage. For example, 2 parents. Yeah, that does give you more advantage. That's why having 2 parents in the home is so important. A starting point that all kids should have.
It does exist today. And you disagree, so I'm leaving. Goodbye. No, it does exist today, but is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. And the thing where I start getting to a fork in the road is if we start saying the way to fix it is to shoot for equality of outcome. That's not a fix for an imperfect meritocracy. What I want to shoot for is equality of opportunity.
Agreed.
Not
yes.
outcome.
So can I run a proposal by you then when you say that? Because we totally agree. Okay, we don't want equality of outcome. That's forced upon people. That's not human nature, and it won't last anyway.
I don't think Cenk's being genuine here. I think he's pandering to Dr. Phil because I've heard him plenty of times that he wants to push certain groups forward ahead of others. I don't think he fully believes in meritocracy at all.
Right? Even if you have an equality of outcome for a minute, it'll be unequal in a second and you're back into the mess, et cetera. It's just totally unworkable. So we have complete agreement there. But when you talk about, all right, and if you did it based on race, I've been against affirmative action since a long time. I think it was necessary in the 60s and 70s when folks had to break into industries, but then it started creating an us versus them mentality that I think is really harmful. I consider myself a minority, born Muslim, et cetera. I wouldn't check off any of the racial categories and religious categories when I was applying to college. And because I don't want to be judged as, oh, he only made it because he's a minority, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's greatly harmful to minorities. So I hear you on all that. But what if we made it about income level? You got a poor kid in the Bronx, you got a poor kid in the Appalachia, and we all know that, you know, our kids are going to have a lot more opportunity than their kids. What if we said, you know, the schools, you can take that into account because they've overcome more to get to the results that they got? Would you be comfortable with that?
Well, I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. You're comparing what to what?
So, for example, two kids are applying to Harvard, right?
Right.
We're not looking at their race. We're just saying, hey, one grew up poor in West Virginia.
Why make them go to Harvard?
Michigan, it doesn't matter.
That's
University of West
intellectual
Virginia.
rot. Let's put them somewhere that they got a chance to actually get an education out of.
Believe me, I got my issues with Harvard too.
Yeah.
So, but you see what I'm saying? They're applying to school. One kid's from West Virginia, and he's making, his parents made $28,000. The other guy's parents make $2.5 million. He got private schools to take the SATs. He got private this, private that, et cetera, has more opportunities. If the kid has got the same scores as him that was poor, man, he had to work so much harder to get there. Not every time, but potentially. So that to me feels more like a meritocracy than just going, well, good luck, kiddo.
Well, that's why you have admission committees, right? That's why you can look and see what the background is of the kids. And obviously, I think, I say in the book, whether you start on third base, dugout, or dumpster, you've still got to climb the hill. And I think these kids that get in based on family legacy and stuff like that, that's just as much an injustice as a kid who you put in on a quota system. That they shouldn't allow those kids in there.
Here.
Either.
Totally
I mean,
agree.
that's terrible. I don't want a doctor operating on my brain because his mom was a good brain surgeon. So they got in, and he didn't do well on the MCAT, but his mom did well. So put him in. No thanks. I'd rather take the kid from the Appalachians who climbed the hill and got up there by himself and worked nights and still did all of this stuff. That's what I'm saying. If we give too much and don't let these kids climb out of there and observe themselves doing that, that's where your self-esteem comes from. That's where your self-worth comes from. That's where you make attributions to yourself. You watch yourself do that and go, you know what? I overcame that. I believe in myself. I believe in my ability to do this because I've seen me do it.
And that's why that sort of behavior needs to be rewarded. It needs to be pointed out. It needs to be celebrated. And we have lost that. We are celebrating sexuality and other nonsensical things that do nothing to further you in the world. That doesn't provide any sort of meaningful success. Who cares what happens in your bedroom? On average, I think it only lasts like 5 to 7 minutes. What are you going to do for the other 23 hours and 53 minutes? And this is another reason why families are so important. You work together, you help lift each other. Family, then your community. And communities look out for each other. Whether it's safety, well-being, take pride in your neighborhood, it all starts from the family.
That's how people get that's how they get their self-image. That's how they get their self-esteem. And if you do it for them, these helicopter parents who smooth out all of the bumps in their kids' lives, that kid never learns to overcome adversity.
And sorry to interrupt, but that's also where governments come in. They come in and try and take out all the bumps and try and, jump in front of any possibility that might happen. You don't end up building the skills, learning the skills that you need to navigate life's obstacles, whether that's personal or professional. What's that saying? Tough times make tough men, soft times make weak men.
So that cheats them out of the chance to make self-attributions that they lean on when they get into tough times. So, I would much more believe in that kid from the Appalachians than I would the kid that had it all paved for him, had an SAT coach, had all of that. I would much, if I had a chance, if I was going to hire one of the two, I'd hire the Appalachian kid.
Yeah, me too, in a flat second.
I've been dying to ask you this question because I agree. Ideally, we have a merit-based system, right? But you also have to kind of take a step back and look at our cultural landscape and the kind of behavior that tends to get rewarded that infuriates me. And I think a prime example is actually someone who came on your show, that Cash Me Outside chick, right? That woman, she's a multi-millionaire now. Multi-millionaire, you know, and she was brought on your show by her mother because of her bad behavior. And her bad behavior became a national sensation. And then she went off to make a lot of money off of her whole persona and everything. So what are your thoughts on that? Like, what can we do to change the culture so bad behavior doesn't get rewarded?
Well, you know, you read the book, and you know, I wrote it down. It's one of the most fundamental principles. I put it in the book. Number 3, don't reward bad behavior or support conduct that you don't value. That's one of the most fundamental principles of psychology. You don't reward bad behavior, because the behavior you reward, you're going to see again and again and again. You withhold reward, or you introduce a negative to that person, they're going to stop doing that. You know, it's true with rats. You put a rat in a cage and they push a lever and get a food pellet. You know what? They're going to push that lever again. They push a lever and get shocked. They're going to, oh, don't push that lever.
But we keep giving the pellets to the bad people. Like, that's my point,
that's
right?
That's the whole point. We do.
And it's in every facet of American life. It's not just in pop culture or entertainment. It's also in our political system. I think a lot of bad behavior gets rewarded in our political system as well.
And 100% in the mainstream leftist lunatic media, they definitely reward bad behavior. You know, they're constantly looking for gotchas. They're constantly looking for controversy. They're not interested in, you know, successful people. They're not interested in that at all. You know, they'd rather show a car crash, you know, than a good story.
Well,
yeah. And that's what I'm saying is when I'm saying we need to have this middle 70% of the country who has an attitude of live and let live, and they just kind of silent and let things roll along. I think we need to wake those folks up and say, hey, you know what? Whatever you believe, you need to start speaking out. You need to start saying what you really believe.
Speaking facts.
I hear all of these folks saying, vote. Just get out and vote. I think that's a bad piece of advice.
Really? Why?
Because you don't want to just vote. You want to make an informed vote.
Agreed with you on that, yeah.
Don't just vote. Don't just say, oh, you know, go get out there and go hit the lever. And I've been beating the drum that you need to be an informed voter, and you need to vote the ticket from the bottom up, not the top down. If you really understand how this works, your life is impacted by local offices as well.
Sure is.
If you're in the park and there's a dog that attacks the lady that lives down the street who's got her child in a stroller, you know what? You need to find out if that dog catcher, I guess they call them animal control now.
They do, yeah.
If that person is allowing dogs to be roaming around and attacking children, find out, was that a one-off, or is that person not doing their job? Is he or she not doing their job? And if they're not, then don't vote for them. If you've got judges who aren't enforcing the law fairly, equitably, and doing it in a way you value, then don't vote for that judge. If that DA's not doing their job, if you think they're being too heavy-handed, then don't vote for them. If you think they're not enforcing the law enough, then don't vote. Find out who in your world is behaving a way that you hold near and dear to your heart, and vote, and do that from the bottom up. That's where your life is impacted.
I mean, I honestly didn't really, that message didn't really resonate with me until about 2 years ago.
So there we have it. Just to wrap it up, I agree with Dr. Phil. I love what Dr. Phil's doing at the moment. He's just coming out talking common sense. He's not aligning with any particular party. Now, having said that, his comments, his remarks, and some of his thoughts definitely align more with the Republican Party. Now, he says he's not a Republican, but in my eyes and in my view, what he's talking about makes common sense. And to me, the Republican Party is definitely the most common sense party. Not all of them, you know, because some of them are just neocons. However, Dr. Phil makes some great points. I think we need to get back to a merit-based system, a merit-based society. We need to build families up, and we need to provide children with the best start in life. And that means providing two parents and a stable home. We need to reward good behavior, and we need to, you know, we need to uplift and share these stories of these ones that do achieve. Not only that they do achieve, how did they achieve it? And the last point Dr. Phil makes is, yes, make informed decisions when you're voting. Don't take the personality into account as much. You can't change someone's personality, but you can certainly vote on the policies, and that would put pressure on local governments to federal governments to make changes and make the policies align with your values and things that are important to you. Now, the other thing I've noticed is Anna Kasparian. She is steadily moving center right. I see every time I watch. The other thing is she's a bit like a babysitter for Cenk. I think I mentioned that in the last video. When she's around, Cenk Uygur, he's not so much like a toddler. Doesn't act as much like a toddler when she's around. She's the babysitter. Now, let me know your thoughts. Drop your comments in the comment section. I'll jump in there as I normally do. Thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you drop a like, that really helps the channel. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Share this video far and wide. And I look forward to catching you in the next video.